Sounds good to me, brother. Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown live before lock. Some of you locking in those NBA lineups. Some of you tuning in for a little NFL exclusively. Whatever it may be, glad to have you here. We're going to dive into everything in just a second. But before we do, if you don't mind, take a single second this evening. Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It's free to do. It goes a long way. And we're grateful for you. Anyway, exciting game on tap today, oddly enough. Greg Ehrenberg with me. Ravens get Lamar back, and then you have a Dolphins team that, you know, I said this to Spags earlier today, and I also mentioned it in one of my Tails posts, Greg. If Miami didn't just rout Atlanta, right? I mean, in Atlanta, forget about Drake London being out and Michael Penix Jr. being out, but if they didn't just destroy them, this is a possible game where it's like a 10-point spread. Derrick Henry's rushing prop could have been over 100, just standard rushing prop. I'm not saying it makes a massive difference, but I definitely think after what we saw from Miami last week, like if this game were to be week 7 instead or week 8 instead of week 9, and Miami never played Atlanta, you may be just going into this one thinking Miami's so bad that they have no shot of keeping this game even remotely close.
Yeah, and we talk about this all the time on some of these Thursday games, though, where on paper, you'd be like, we know it's going to happen. There's no way that the Dolphins could win. I mean, how many times have we gone into a Thursday night game where it looks like a team has
all
no
the time
business winning? And then what ends up happening? They not only do they cover, they win the game outright. Of course, 49ers, Rams, that being the one that stands out the most. So on a short week, Lamar Jackson coming back from injury. You never want to write anybody off. It should be a game the Ravens win. It's a game the Ravens need to win where they are in the standings, but stranger things have happened on these Thursday night games.
It happens all the time. Also, it doesn't need to be the Dolphins don't need to win by 10 for this game to be competitive. Here's a good example for you on a Thursday night game, Greg. What about Miami and Buffalo? Buffalo was an 11.5-point favorite, and that game was in Buffalo, and the Miami Dolphins had Tua not thrown a terrible, just telegraphed intercept. You remember that game?
Yeah.
Terrible telegraphed interception at the end. They were in the red zone, or at least like on the verge of the red zone with the ability to tie that game. They were only down by 7. They ended up losing by 10 because Buffalo marched downfield, got a field goal after that turnover. But that was a perfect game where everybody looked at that and said, there's zero chance. Another good one. I don't know if it was a Thursday. Niners and Rams, when everybody was out for the Niners and they won outright in overtime. So I never go into these with the assumption that they can't stay competitive. And Miami at home has traditionally played much better under Mike McDaniel as well.
Yeah, 7.5-point spread. And I mean, the Dolphins, as much as the results have been poor this year, they nearly beat the Patriots earlier on in the season. They were, they had that game. They were super competitive against the Bills. They played some good teams really close. So, yeah, the spread is 7.5 in this game. Don't go into it. Of course, it could happen to blow out, but I don't think it's the most likely scenario at all.
For sure. I must bring this up. CM311, I appreciate you, man. Loughy, congrats on your Twitter win. Did you see my Twitter win?
Your Twitter win?
After 13 years of trying, I finally got the Loughy handle on Twitter. Finally, I got it. Dude, Twitter has this new thing where you can go in and you can shop handles. And I went in there and by God, it was available. That scumbag out there somewhere in the UK that hasn't tweeted since 2008. They finally got rid of him. I finally got it. So if you're going to follow me, it's at Loughy. It's going to take some getting used to. But _D, we're here, baby. 13 years later. Shout out to you, CM311. I appreciate that.
We're gonna have to update that in StreamYard because it still says Loughy _D in your name.
Oh, you're right. Good call. I will have to fix that.
I have a confession. I have a confession, by the way.
What's that?
Did see that, and I knew that's what you were going to say, but I wanted to find the clapping applause sound effect underneath.
Nice.
So I pretended I didn't know so that I had a second to go find the sound effect.
It did strike me as strange because I was like, I'm pretty sure Greg liked that tweet.
Yeah, I did.
All right. Or you just pulled something of somebody we work with and it just slipped your mind. Anyway, fun show right now. I'm excited to get into it. And I see a lot of you talking about Giannis as well. I assume you guys, did that come out? Did that news break after lock?
Yes, it came out like 4 minutes after lock. So I'm actually really happy that because we're doing the NFL show, I only played the NFL slate because it would have been so chaotic right now if I was trying to update NFL lineups and NBA at the same time. I had just enough time to beat the books and play some Warriors bets, which I bet the Bucks earlier in the day. So now I'm happier that I was able to go ahead and get that action in on the Warriors. But yeah, it was something that I was happy I did not have to deal with as far as DFS is concerned.
Yeah, I bet. NBA DFS it's tough, man. It's fun, but tough. All right, we'll get into all of these plays here. We'll hit a super chat. Cully Poston, I know this name because I remember Cully sending you out a ring for the Hall of Fame. One of the Stokastic rings for a 20K plus win. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain I did. I remember all those names pretty well. Bijan did what he was supposed to last week. Henry would be 50% captain. So exactly, that's kind of the thing, right? I'm not saying he'd be 50% because he is very expensive, but yeah, I do believe Henry would be higher owned at the captain spot because I believe his props will be higher, and his props will be higher, which drive the ownership higher. Yeah, I mean, look, if Miami continued to get bent over by running backs, I mean, the week prior. You saw, was it the previous? I can't remember. But I mean, you saw Quinshon Judkins, not the most effective game, but 3 touchdowns. Rico Dowdle, 200 plus yards. They've given up monster games. So absolutely 50% no, but I think he would have been more popular. And that actually makes a pretty good spot for us to pivot into this slate, Greg. I have some interest quite a bit in Derrick Henry today. I posted a ladder over on Tails. I won't tell you what I'm going up to or how much, but you guys should go check it out. All those bets are free. But the thought here on Henry is that I like him more a captain than flex because he is a decimal back. We don't know how much gas he has left in the tank, and we don't know if Miami actually figured some things out. They're clearly not as good as they were last week. There was no London. There was no Penix Jr., right? Like, it was easy to key in on Bijan. Harder to do that against Lamar, Flowers, even throw in Likely and Andrews. Much tougher to just key in on Henry. But I'm willing to take some shots on a guy that, Greg, when he does have it and when he is getting those breakaway runs, like 200-yard rushing game is in play. So could it be a 50-yard game and no touchdowns and he just kills your lineups? Absolutely. But that's not enough for me to say I don't want to have pretty good exposure to Henry at the captain spot tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other thing to consider too with Derrick Henry in the captain spot is look at the ownership that we have going to Lamar Jackson. Not as crazy as it is on some other slates. It is very high over on FanDuel though. The Lamar Jackson's right around 30%, the MVP ownership, but still, he is the most popular captain / MVP option, Lamar Jackson, and who is the most direct leverage play in terms of touchdowns. The guy who is overwhelmingly most likely to steal touchdowns away from Lamar Jackson when they get down to the red zone, it is Derrick Henry. So if you get into one of these scenarios where Derrick Henry scores the touchdowns, not Lamar Jackson, our Sims are bearing this out too. Derrick Henry showing up in 18% of lineups in the captain spot compared to 22% of Lamar Jackson. Well, even though that is slightly more Lamar Jackson, we're actually underweight to Lamar Jackson relative to his projected ownership, way overweight to Derrick Henry relative to his projected ownership. So I think it's a great leverage play in the MVP / captain spot.
Agreed. Getting 11% right now. It's a spot that I'm willing to get to. I think plenty of other people will be as well. But, there would be other slates where Henry would be 25% at captain. And you're just not seeing that today. So, yeah, I'm willing to take some shots there. I like him more at captain than flex, but I like him at flex too. It isn't to say Henry can't have a 90-yard game with a touchdown and that ends up being enough, right? Maybe like one reception. He gets you to, 17, 18 points. But, yeah, Clayton, I hope Miami just stays in it to force Jackson to run. You never know. Spags mentioned he hasn't been running as much. And when I looked at his props, I went in and I looked at the historical props, rushing props for Lamar Jackson week over week this year. They started at 47.5, went to 45, 43, down to 40, and they're at like 35 to 37 today. But I think some of that too, Greg, is just because they're 7.5 point favorites. And when you have games where the Ravens are big, touchdown plus favorites, his rushing props always going to be lower than when it's like Chiefs or Bills or something like that.
Most significantly too, he's coming off a hamstring injury. They're 7.5 point favorites. So if there's any game that the Ravens are going to be a little bit cautious with Lamar and that he's also going to be cautious, this is the one. First game back, 7.5 point spread. If you get a lead in the late going, there's no way they're taking chance with Lamar running the football. It's just safer to have them play it a little bit more conservatively because their season's fucked if he gets re-injured. It's already close to being fucked.
Close, but it's not. It's close, but it's not. I mean, I'm saying it's close, but it's not fucked. Like,
yeah, agree.
There's still a shot here for sure. Paul Newman, this is the "we are who you thought we are" game script for Baltimore. They're going to smack Miami. Yeah, I mean, there was a season, I don't remember if it was last season or the season before that, where Baltimore lost their first game and then they were at home against the Ravens, and I thought the same, or the Raiders, and I thought the same thing. I was like, dude, they're going to come out there and beat the piss out of them. And then the Raiders won outright. So stranger things have happened again. Do I think they probably come in and have a decent game? Yeah, the defense is mostly healthy now. The offense is healthy. Ronnie Stanley's healthy. But I wouldn't put anything past any of them. And to that point, Greg, I still like Devon Achane and Jalen Waddle at captain and in the flex quite a bit. I mean, I think both of those guys are very good plays. And if you remember, even last year, Baltimore had some massive weaknesses in their secondary. And I know they tried to shore that up a little bit and they had some injuries, but this has still been a team over the last, 1+ seasons, 1.5 seasons now. They're not a shutdown team in the passing game as they were like 3 and 4 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely not at all. This is a defense that injuries have certainly played a factor, but this is just a flat out bad defense. And it's not even in historically, the Ravens have basically always had good defenses. And this is just a bad defense this season.
Rob Live, they cover in the 7.5. They have a 82% chance to cover. Well, that's not true. Maybe around a 50% chance to cover. That's why the spread. What's that?
Rob, where did you come up with the 82% number from? I am. Is this just bullshitting? Is it a troll? I'm curious.
No, it's probably 82% chance if you're taking the month to win. And I don't even know if it's that
82% chance to cover. 2 is spelled wrong, except the wrong.
No, it is. I just did the math. The implied odds on the money line are 82%. So they have an 82% chance to win on the implied odds, of course. Right? But yeah, they have around a 50% chance to cover. That's why there's a spread, right? That's why the spreads are minus 110.
Well, I want to hear from Rob too. I was wondering if it's one of those things where, like ESPN has their goofy algorithm where they just say team,
for sure.
Yeah, it'll ESPN. It'll be a team's a 6.5 point. Like here's something that could happen with the ESPN algorithm, Loughy. You could have a situation where it's like, let's just make up a random scenario. Dolphins are on the road in Atlanta, and the ESPN algorithm will just be like, Dolphins should be favored in this game, even though the Falcons are 13.5 point favorites. Like weird things like that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good example. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And
I bet you do.
Rob, I mean, it is no big deal. It's just one of it's the spread is there to level the competitive playing field so you can bet on either side. So a spread is always going to be around 50%.
Yeah. Yeah, spread's always going to be around 50-50 unless you bet the Warriors early in the day and then Giannis gets ruled out. Or the inverse with me, where I bet the Bucks earlier in the day, Giannis gets ruled out, and that looks terrible, but I'm able to beat the books and bet the Warriors, and now I've got both sides of the game, and I'm just going to end up breaking even, but I'm just happy to not lose.
That's a win. Sometimes that's a win. I'm looking at our top 5 owned exposed captains right now. Lamar, Achane, Henry, Waddle, and Flowers. I like all of them at captain. And I don't really think there's an argument against any of them, right? At all. I really don't. Even though Lamar's coming back from the hamstring, I still think there's a lot of reason to like all of those guys. All 5 of them, and I get it. I wouldn't even mind if I had more Zay Flowers and Jalen Waddle than I currently do. Right? Like, I wouldn't even mind bringing Lamar down a little bit, smoothing that out. I'm okay with that. My question for you is, are there any low-owned captains right now that you'd consider getting to? Because there's a ton of viable, and for those of you guys that have already looked at this slate, you know what I'm talking about. There are an insane amount of viable flex options today. But how many viable captain options are there? Like, can we go to Isaiah Likely? Because his price point is ridiculously dumb. Can you go to Mark Andrews, right? Can you go to Rashad Bateman? Those type of guys. Do any of them make sense? I think it's hard to captain anybody else from Miami, if I'm being honest. I don't think you're getting the Malik Washington, right? Or Greg Dulcich. Like, I don't think those guys are going to end up at captain.
Yeah, so the problem I have with the cheap captains in this game is there's one that I think is okay, depending how cheap it is that you're actually talking. But I get to very limited exposure to anybody outside of the handful of pay up options in the captain spot. So I'm meaning Zay Flowers and down, I don't get more than 5% of anybody. As far as dart throws go, if I had to pick somebody, it'd be Malik Washington, just because he has big play upside. But he doesn't really draw a ton of targets, and he's not somebody who I'm super keen on playing in the captain spot, just because even in the captain, he's still $7,200. So it's not like you're saving that much. But also, there are so many good high upside skill position players in this game. Lamar Jackson, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, and then to a lesser extent, Jalen Waddle and Zay Flowers. I tend to think one of those guys is going to have a slate-breaking sort of game.
I do too. But can anyone else have a slate-breaking game?
Probably not. It's anything is on the table, but in all likelihood, no, not to the point where I'm getting a meaningful amount of any of them. If I had to pick one, it'd be Malik Washington, but it's very low priority.
Yeah, I hear you. James Popplewell popping in once again, asking for the most duped lineups. Can't stay. James, I must know, in order for me to grant this request of yours, what is such an urgent, pressing matter every Thursday that you can't stick around for the duration of Live Before Lock? Please. Greg, pull up the duped lineups, by the way. Yeah, what do we got going on every Thursday, James? Mr. Popplewell.
We can definitely do this. Yeah. Not just for James. We could do this for everybody. But it is true. He's every Thursday night, he's in a hurry to see these lineups.
He is. Boys, I got to get out of here, but please, those dupes.
Yeah.
All right, who do we have? And James, I have no problem doing this. It's a helpful part of the show anyway. But I am curious.
No surprise at all. I think everything in this lineup screams chalk, makes sense. Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely, Malik Washington, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. I guess the only thing that might stick out is that it's both of the tight ends from the Ravens, but at the same time, you've got reasonable price tags on both of them. They're both fairly popular. It's giving you the most popular spend ups too. It is no surprise to me that this is a chalky lineup.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And James said he has to go to work. All right, fair enough. Fair enough, James. And I appreciate you more for that. Yeah, some of these, you look at them, the Baltimore 5-3, 5-5, 4-4. There's no, how far down do you have to scroll until you get one that doesn't have at least 3 Ravens in it? That's the most duped. Let's hope we don't run into the issue we did on What was that, Monday or last Thursday, where we scrolled for 5 hours trying to find?
Yeah, that was the entire Monday morning strategy show was just trying to find a top 150 lineup
Yeah.
and how many dupes it had. And it was like 5 dupes. So I had to scroll through the entire set of lineups until we got there. And we were pot committed at one point to doing it. So
Yeah, it had to
we
be
just
done.
scrolled forever. Here we go. This didn't take all that long. It is 59 dupes, a Baltimore 2. So that means that we've got 4 of Miami on the other side. Malik Washington in the captain spot. Alec Engel, Devon Achane, Lamar Jackson, Tua, and Zay Flowers.
All right, so that's not too far. Malik, I mean, that's a crazy lineup. Actually, I was going to say, I can see why it would be Duke because you have Achane, Lamar, Tua, and Flowers, and you're just punting Malik at captain. But Alec Engel being in there too is kind of wild. I don't know.
What's the... Ingold is the most popular punt in terms of all the way down. He's 7% owned. So I could understand it. If people have that amount of salary left, Ingold is just the guy that people are clicking on.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, if you guys have any questions, hit us up in the chat and we will hit on all of them. We still got plenty of time to go. What do we have? Like 45 minutes or something? Something around there. 40 minutes?
Yeah, something
30,
like that.
35 minutes? Yeah, 35 minutes. Which Ravens backup running back plays more in the event of a Ravens blowout? Oh, definitely Keaton Mitchell. No, hands down, no doubt about it.
We actually got a question about Keaton Mitchell in Discord as well. This one came to us from a Gdo 213. He wants to know how much Keaton Mitchell is too much Keaton Mitchell. So he only shows up in, that's the captain. Is he not showing up at all in the flex, or does it just have too many filters on right now?
I do in my lineups. I'm looking at my lineups right now, and I've got some Keaton Mitchell for sure.
Yeah, 22%. So, Gito, we're about 2x the field on Keaton Mitchell. I think he works more in certain game scripts than others. Loughy had mentioned just a second ago that Keaton Mitchell is most likely to play in a blowout. So if you are planning around a build that has the Ravens winning by multiple touchdowns, Keaton Mitchell would make more sense in that lineup. But I think it's totally reasonable that we're 2x the field on him. I don't know that I want to put like 40% of Keaton Mitchell, but 20 to 30% I think is pretty reasonable and a good stand on him at 1,400.
Yeah, it's fine with me too. Also, I actually have a lot of lineups with Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell in them.
I don't have an issue with that either, because another thing too, the guy who's the first guy off the field, or the first guy to be limited in a blowout for the Ravens, it's Lamar Jackson. And if you think that they're going to win by a sizable amount, I still think they're going to be cautious with Lamar Jackson even before he comes out of the game in that kind of scenario. So I think that lends itself well to a blowout with Derrick Henry getting a little bit more touches than normal. And then the late stages of the fourth quarter, it's just Keaton Mitchell running the football.
I could see that too. Absolutely. But yeah, is it a risky play? Absolutely. Now, if this game's competitive, this is something I was talking about with Spags this morning. If this game's competitive, Justice Hill actually does look interesting. If you go back and look at the games that they played that were competitive, Justice Hill actually got a decent amount of work. Now, I wouldn't want to captain him, although there are times where on showdown slates he was needed. But yeah, look, he's 19% and we're getting 12%. That's fine. But again, if this game's close and it doesn't play to the spread, which, by the way, I think sometimes we look at 7.5 points and just assume like, oh man, there's no way this game stays close. A 7.5 point spread's not even that much, right? Like this game, it could be a touchdown game. And then the Ravens drive down with 3 minutes left. They kick a field goal and it's 10 points. And you're like, oh, well, it was actually, Greg, a 1-possession game all day or all game. So 7.5 points, it seems like a lot. Sure, it's a lot bigger than a 1 or 2 or 3 point spread where you're talking like real competitive spot. But in the end, 7.5 is not that much. It's not like the 14 you're seeing with the Rams over the Saints this weekend at all.
Yeah, I mean, we referenced this game earlier, but when the Dolphins played the Bills, which I'm pretty sure was a Thursday night football game.
I think it was Thursday, yeah.
That was a game where It was a one-score game for basically the entirety of the game. It was always close on the scoreboard, but it always seemed inevitable that the Bills were going to end up winning, which they did do ultimately, but it was technically close. Like, there was never a point in time where it was a blowout or the starters were coming out or teams were changing how they were running plays because of the scores. It was just like a close game where we kind of knew the outcome the entire time.
Right. And again, it ended up being a 10-point differential at the end of the game. Every starter played every amount of snaps that they normally would have. So, man, they need to win, or else no reason to bring Lamar back. He could have came back last week. He's 100%. I agree with the last part. I mean, I agree that they need to win too, but of course they were going to bring Lamar back. He had a hamstring injury. He didn't lose his left foot. So yeah, they got to win, but also it doesn't mean they're going to. I think they will. I think the Ravens make for a nice teaser piece. 7.3 team teaser on a week like this. You could bring them down to a half point. That's not bad. Goody, thanks, brother, as always. Because I'm trying to quickly fix NBA, can you tell me how Ravens' D injuries are looking? They're fine. They got everybody back outside of Matabuke. They had everybody back last week post-bye, Goody, so they're good.
Yeah, it's still a matter of when healthy. This is not a good defense. But with that said, with their players healthy, they're better situated than they were like 3 weeks ago. But still probably isn't going to be a very good defense.
Yeah. I think they're fine. Look, you can't compare them to the team against Houston, though. They had everybody missing in that game. I mean, everybody was out. Everybody. So, yeah. I don't know, man. Are we okay with fading Tua completely? I think I have him in 2 lineups from Brandon. What's up, Brandon? I mean, 2 out of what? 5? Sure. 2 out of 10? Okay. 2 out of 150? That's a little dicey to me. I still think you're talking about a Ravens defense that is not fully proven. I think they're a lot better than they were against Houston, a lot better than they were when they were banged up against the Chiefs. But I don't have a ton of confidence, like Greg said, that they're just very good. And if that's the case, Tua might need to throw the football quite a bit.
He's somewhat contrarian too. Tua for a quarterback on a primetime game, sub 30% owned. You don't see that very frequently. There's very negative sentiment towards Tua, which is 100% deserved, both based on his on-field play. And then that entire Dolphins team does the weirdest press conferences after games end. You got Mike McDaniels, who Loughy's made fun of for a couple of years now. I don't know if he's rubbed off on Tua, but Tua shows up at his press conference. He's like, hey, guys, what do you want me to do? I can't throw the ball to Jalen Waddle. I'm short. I can't see over the offensive line sometimes. It's like this entire team does the weirdest press conferences ever. So Tua has not played well on the field, off the field. Also, he seems to take zero accountability. Things go wrong. He's like, something's wrong with leadership here. It's like, yeah, dude, you're the starting quarterback. You should be the leadership there. But for a lot of reasons, Tua's ownership is low beyond just how he's played on the field. And I kind of do think he's a little bit under-owned, that considered. I don't want to play him in the multiplier spot, but as a flex option at 29% ownership, I think Tua to Jalen Waddle or Tua to Malik Washington, I think that's a really, really good lower-owned combination.
I couldn't agree more. Even Tua and Achane, Achane's still very capable of having like a 60-yard receiving game with a touchdown through the air, right? So they do have ways for it to work. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. There's a couple questions out there, or Rance made a statement actually that the pass rush has been non-existent. Yeah, I mean, neither team has a good pass rush. Baltimore's pass rush, losing Matabuke is bad, but neither team's had a great pass rush, and that absolutely impacts a game like this. Both quarterbacks might just have time to throw. I'm really most interested to see if they can slow down Derrick Henry. That's what I want to see. Can you slow down Derrick Henry? Because if you can, there's a good possibility that Lamar just has a crazy game or this game just stays close. I mean, it is in Miami, right? So the other question that came in that I thought was a great question was, what about any receiver on the Dolphins not named Waddle? So you already mentioned Malik Washington. Yeah, he's fine just because he's going to be out there. right? He'll get some opportunities. What I want to know is, what do you do? And let me check the inactives. I looked at them earlier, but I just want to be 100% sure before I make a comment here. Okay, that's what I thought. Jalen Wright is inactive, and nobody else on Julian Hill, but we knew he was out. So what do you make of the D. Eskridge, Cedric Wilson Jr. thing? Because I think they signed Cedric Wilson off the practice squad, but he was dealing with a knee injury early season. Then he was a coach's decision inactive back-to-back games. But then he plays last week, plays 22 snaps, and D. Eskridge, who had been playing 20+% of snaps in back-to-back games, only played one total snap. So he essentially took away all of D. Eskridge's opportunities.
Yeah, and if you look at the overall wide receiver snaps for them last week, you got 78% from Jalen Waddle, 62% from Malik Washington, 65% to Nick Westbrook-Akine, and then you got the 32% for Cedric Wilson, and then you mentioned just the solo snap for D. Eskridge, only playing 1% of the snaps last week. So I think that Cedric Wilson, not that you could have the utmost confidence in him, but he's actually my favorite sub $1,000 punt. He's only 6% owned at $800. Alec Ingold is also pulling a little bit of ownership at $200. I like getting to Cedric Wilson, though, just because I don't know exactly what his role is going to be, but he's somebody who we've actually seen produce in the past relative to other guys who are normally his price point. He doesn't suck as much as other guys who are sub $1,000, and he actually might be playing on a third or so of their snaps on offense. So I think he's a very good contrarian punt.
Bash Barty, D. Eskridge got hurt last week. Did he leave the game? I didn't think he left the game. Did he leave the game and then was fine this week? If that's the case, then D. Eskridge would be the guy. Yeah. I mean, none of them are really the guy. It's an ugly team, but it's also a showdown slate. And you guys know what happens on Thursdays is the obscure out of nowhere tight end. Is it Greg Dulcich? Is it, I mean, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, sure. But does it end up being like a Tanner Connor? I think all of these guys should be in the pool. Charlie Kohler, but there's nothing I can really say about them outside of they'll get some time. All right, appreciate that, Bosch Barty. That makes a lot more sense. I thought he returned.
I did look it up. He actually did get carted off the field last game and did not finish the game.
Okay, that helps. Appreciate it.
But now anyway, I'm curious. He still only played the one snap. Now I'm curious what the snaps were like before he got hurt.
Right. Was it the first snap he was out there like early in the game? That would actually be helpful to know. Game Day Swami, do we like Tanner Connor just because he'll be on the field by default? I mean, the word like it's a strong word for Tanner Connor. But he will, he played 45% of snaps last week. Did he run any routes? Because one of the things Miami did last week is they had 6 blockers, 6 linemen, and I saw that, I read on Twitter that they did that on like 13 snaps, which is a decent amount of snaps. He had 2 targets in that game. 3 the game before. He's not that cheap at 2,800. I mean, it's just so hard for me to justify that over Isaiah Likely. I guess it makes sense if you get a little bit of him. How much are we getting of a guy like Tanner Connor?
Let's see. Tanner Connor is showing up in 7% of lineups. He's somebody, $2,800 is a more substantial price tag than it should be for somebody like him. It's weird to call somebody too expensive at $2,800, but that is kind of a hard price tag to get for a guy like Tanner Connor, who at most is getting like, 2 to 4 targets and doesn't have all that much explosive big play upside either.
Right. I mean, look, I would rather go to a $600 Greg Dulcich. How much Dulcich do we have? I know he didn't see any targets and he's only played 1 game. I would still rather go to Dulcich here at that Oh, okay. So yeah, 11%. To me, that makes just more sense. And it's probably this. I'd rather go all the way down, Greg, to Dulcich, or I would rather go a little bit further down to Tanner Connor. Or I'm sorry, Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, Likely. I mean, Likely is so much more Likely's 2K. He's way more popular, but he's so much more talented than what Tanner Connor is.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm still trying to figure out exactly when it was that D. Eskridge got hurt. So I'm looking.
And another guy, Keaton Mitchell. I'd rather pay down for Keaton Mitchell too. What about you guys? Let me know. The chat is wide open. If you're talking about these guys that are sub 3K or even 3K, if you want to throw Tylan Wallace in there, you have Tanner Connor, Charlie Kohler, Keaton Mitchell, Cedric Wilson, Greg Dulcich, Isaiah Likely. To me, it's Likely, Mitchell, and Dulcich would be the three that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I don't have any differing opinions on that. It totally makes sense to me. I am trying to figure out if we do find out that it was way at the beginning of that game that Eskridge got hurt, then I'm not going to be interested in Cedric Wilson as a punt anymore.
Bosch Barty said it was.
It was definitely early, but it's to me more, were there actual offensive sets where Cedric Wilson was already playing ahead of D. Eskridge before he got hurt?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. And right now, I think it would just take me too long to figure it out.
I'm working on it. It happened on a kickoff, so.
He said, I think it was the first play.
Was it all right, let's see. Was it the very first play of the game?
I don't know. But we're getting 30% to it, Captain. And again, if you guys have questions, let us know. Happy to answer them. Flex Flowers, 32%, Henry, 41, HN, 49, Lamar, 49. And if you use the Sims, you already know, looking through these lineups, that a lot of these are kind of just made possible with some of these cheaper options, right? Like Keaton Mitchell, Isaiah Likely, a lot of those guys are gonna open things up and make it more possible. How much Isaiah Likely are we getting to?
By the way, it was the first play of the game. I was able to find it. So,
okay, nice.
Yeah, so Cedric Wilson, less interesting now. Isaiah Likely, very popular as far as punt goes at 2K. He's in about a third of the field's lineups. We get to him in 16% of lineups, so he shows up, but that is pretty well underweight to the field with him.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, if we're being honest. And if you guys want these tools, we had another Millie this week, by the way. Shout out to BS Golfer. That's 2 Millies for the Stokastic team this year. That's pretty good, all things considered, given that we've only had 8 weeks of football and some other amazing kind of lower stakes stuff that I never forget about those players, because whenever I say, you can go get the Sims for free, I have a lot of you guys in mind. You love playing DFS, but, you might not have the means, or you honestly just don't want to spend a ton of money and you actually enjoy DFS more when you're not spending a ton and you're just sweating them without, having to worry so much about everything. I get that as well. So if you want to get the Sims for free, just use the link in the description. Here's what I would say, because we're building lineups right now. Click this link if you're watching on your phone. Leave it open. Leave the tab open. Or if it's on your computer, your desktop, whatever, just leave it open. And then when the game starts, make your deposit. It's like a $5 or $10 deposit on any of these sites. You have to click claim offer. The link's in the description. Click claim offer so we can track you. Onyx is in 40 plus states. It's a sweepstakes book. So if you're not in a legal betting state, you have this. You have Better, Sleeper, Underdog, DraftKings Pick 6, sponsor of today's show, Caesars, Fanatics, all of these. Just sign up, make a minimum deposit. It's $5 or $10. Place a bet. And then when that bet settles, just take the screenshots of your welcome email and your settled bet. Email us, not the books. Email us at support@stokastic.com and tell us what you want. Every one of these equals a new month. So let's say you go, all right, nice. I'm signing up for Caesars and I'm going to sign up for Onyx and Fanatics. Let's say you deposit a total of $25, right? Now you're talking like $450 worth of the sim subs because you're getting a month of core for all three of those. You could go 2 months of NFL and run that all the way through Christmas, essentially up until New Year's. And you could grab, let's say, the Caesars one, a full month of NBA, and run that all the way through the next month up until the start of December. So seriously, if you're somebody that's like, man, I'd love to try the tools, but I haven't been able to do it. I don't want to spend that much money on it because I don't play that much each week. Just do this, man. There's no better option. There's probably one of these that you're not on, and each and every one of them equals an entirely new month of the Sims. So make sure to do that if you haven't done so yet. Link is down below. So, all right, what do we make of what I'd like to do is go to captains for a second, Greg.
Sure.
All right, so if we sort by salary down, so cheapest first.
Oh, cheapest first. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Up. I was trying to see like where's the first guy or player we get where we're actually getting considerable captain ownership. It looks like we don't have any Isaiah Likely, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, the cheapest is Zay Flowers at 14.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I really thought there's somebody would be more. It's really just 3% Ravens, 3% Malik Washington, or essentially 3% Riley Patterson, 3% Tyler Lute. All right, can we do the same thing with the flex position?
Yep. Yeah, so going over to the flex now, this is going to look different because at the flex, we get 11% of Dolchich, 11% of Cedric Wilson, although I am not interested in Cedric Wilson. Shout out to whoever it was in chat that brought up the D. Eskridge thing before, because I did a negative ROI boost to Cedric Wilson right after that. So less interested in Cedric Wilson after finding out that D. Eskridge literally got hurt on the very first kickoff of last week's game. Then it's Keaton Mitchell showing up in 22% of lineups. Yeah, right away, you're seeing some cheap guys that show up in a good amount of lineups.
I'm trying to see what the exposure to him looks like. Yeah, I guess you would want a negative boost, Cedric Wilson. Did you bring D. Eskridge up?
I gave him a little bit of an R. It's not like I'm massively interested in D. Eskridge. He showed up in 2% of lineups, and then I got 0% of Cedric Wilson.
I also wonder too, like, with D. Eskridge, you saying he was carted off the field? Like,
yeah, with a shoulder injury.
And then he's just right back. You got carted off the field and you're back on Wednesday. What a waste of a cart.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they should take the gas money out of his paycheck for the game.
They should. They really should. It's shocking that they would. I don't get that. But all right, fair enough. Who's your favorite dirt? I gave you mine. You gave me some, but who's the favorite dirt cheap sub 1K option today?
Well, it was going to be Cedric Wilson, but now I'm going to lean towards Alec Ingold. And the reason it's going to be Ingold, number one, he's $200. So you're getting a little bit more salary savings off the guys who are, like 800 or 600 or something like that. But the other part of it too, when it comes to Alec Ingold, Wright is inactive for the Dolphins today. Does that mean Ingold has to play? No, but it definitely means that he has more opportunity to play than he otherwise would. And I think that if you get in a situation where it's garbage time, I think Alec Ingold is probably the guy who's going to be on the field now. Ollie Gordon's maybe graduated past garbage time with how he's played this season. So just because of the injury scenarios, I think Alec Ingold is the best sub 1K play now.
Okay. And we haven't talked much about Ollie Gordon, which is probably a good time to do it. We still have just under 15 minutes to do this. But I went in and looked at red zone opportunities this year. 16-10, Devon Achane to Ollie Gordon. 5-6, or I should say 6-5 inside the 10, Ollie Gordon. And then 2-2 at the goal line. We actually saw this against Buffalo. Ollie Gordon had an early rushing touchdown and got their 2 goal line attempts. So, do I love the price point on Ollie Gordon? No. I mean, what's he at? Like 4K, I think, or something in the 4K range.
44.
It's not a great price. It's really not. Especially knowing that Achane is still going to dominate all of the work in the passing game. And this could be a high scoring game for sure. But I'm just throwing it out there that, despite the 51.5 point total, if that, or not despite, but actually given that there's a 51.5 point total, if you do see a lot of points in this game, it's possible maybe Ollie Gordon punches one in. So I still don't know if that'd be enough at 4,400 because of how many cheap guys there are, but he is getting some red zone work, Greg. It's worth bringing up at least.
Yeah, here's the problem with Ollie Gordon. You mentioned it, basically no passing game work. He did actually catch a touchdown pass last week, but he only has 7 targets for the entire season. And that is only one game with more than 1 target. So his season high is 2 targets and a blowout loss to the Cleveland Browns. Then as far as rushing goes, yeah, we saw him score that touchdown in the primetime game against the Bills. You and I were sitting here watching the game. We're like, fuck, Ollie Gordon scored. There goes the entire slate.
Yeah.
But that's the only touchdown he scored on the ground the entire season. He's been wildly inefficient. So we're talking about a guy who gets no passing game work and averages 3.1 yards per carry in the rushing game. That's somebody who at $4,400, it's really hard for me to get behind. I'd rather just go all the way down to Ingold and punt if I'm going to go to a backup Dolphins running back.
I mean, I tell you, it really just shows you how much Mike McDaniel dislikes Jalen Wright. With how ineffective Gordon has been largely across the whole season, and Jalen Wright is still inactive today.
He's also been not great this season. So we saw Jalen Wright. Well, last game's
no,
time
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright had a terrible camp, is what happened, and a terrible preseason. Because I thought he was going to be good. I have too much of him in best ball. He was super cheap. I was like, this could be a good spot. But hasn't he only touched the ball in 1 game?
Yeah, he played in the game against the Falcons. They gave him 9 carries. He had 28, and they were crushing the Falcons last weekend. And they're like, let's give Jalen Wright an opportunity. They gave him 9 carries in a blowout where they were just moving the ball at will against the Falcons. And he had 9 carries for 28 yards. And they were like, yeah, this is why we don't play this guy. And they're just never again.
Right. Like if he can't beat a team up when we're up by 30, what the hell is he going to do next week in Baltimore? Anything else you want to look at? I'm trying to finalize these lineups while we do this.
Yeah, so also just going to look at some of the players in general that were overweight to in the flex spot. And Keaton Mitchell, we've already talked about. Keaton Mitchell is somebody who would definitely be on the field in garbage time for the Ravens. It's kind of disappointing how his career's gone because he looked like somebody who is going to potentially be the future of the Ravens running game in his rookie season. And then just injuries happened and he's never really quite been able to get on track. I still think that he is somebody who's a talented player, but he's just fallen down in the depth chart to the point where he's somebody who either plays in blowouts or he's just kind of a gadget player. So Keaton Mitchell, $1,400, fine punt with upside. He kind of need things to go his way for him to end up being in the winning lineup. Ravens defense, Dolphins defense also showing up a little bit here. Don't really want a ton of the Dolphins defense, mostly because I think the Ravens are going to be very focused on the run game. And that is going to be something that it's just hard for opposing defenses to score very many fantasy points if you're pounding the ball. It doesn't give you sack opportunities, doesn't give you as many turnover opportunities. Well, I know Derrick Henry has fumbled, like 3 or 4 times this year, but in general, interceptions are much more likely to happen than fumbles. So just considering what I think the Ravens game plan is most likely to be, we're only getting to 12% of the Dolphins defense. Usually we see more of contrarian defenses show up in the Sims, but just considering how often the Ravens run the football, could understand why we're not getting to the Dolphins as much as a contrarian defense. I much prefer the Ravens at 4K. We just see boneheaded plays over and over again by Tua. And then games get close to the end of the game. He just finds a way to have a bad turnover, throw the ball away. So if I'm going to play one of the defenses, certainly the Ravens to go to. And then a couple other punts that are showing up here. One of them is Cedric Wilson, although I've touched on this before. Not someone really all that interested in playing at this point. And then Rashad Bateman is kind of an interesting contrarian play to Loughy just because it's $6,400. He's overpriced. but he's also in this no man's land of pricing to where nobody's clicking on him. I was hand building my single entry lineup before this, and I really strongly considered putting Rashad Bateman in just because of how low owned I think he's going to be.
I said the same thing this morning. I have a lot of interest in him too. If only because Rashad Bateman can have those type of games that just end up being like, oh, wow, okay, that was the Bateman game. You know, like the 2 touchdown game, he catches 2 passes for 30 plus yards and they're both touchdowns. It happens. That stuff absolutely happens. So, yeah, I hear you. I have absolutely no issues with that whatsoever. And a matter of fact, I'm on board. So if you end up landing on some of Rashad Bateman, I'm all about it. One thing we touched on a little bit here, but I did want to mention one more time. Jalen Waddle at captain intrigues me here today. We are getting some. He's one of the top 5 guys at captain that we talked about. But I did just want to come back to that because, you know, Tua, after 2 weeks ago in those boneheaded comments that he made at the podium, you still have to be. You saw last week, he fed him. He had a really nice game. He's still a very good player, right? You're still talking about an exceptional player here in Jalen Waddle, and no Tyreek Hill, and no other notable pass catchers to begin with. So, yeah, I like the idea of getting to some Jalen Waddle at captain as well. I mean, I love him in the flex, but getting to him at captain, him, Henry, Achane, Lamar, and Flowers really do look good. Is it possible that Bateman could be a viable captain? Sure. Likely? Absolutely. But these top 5 clearly have the highest likelihood of being an optimal captain today.
Yeah, and we touched on this at the top if you guys weren't here, but as far as captain exposure goes, we really didn't get anybody at a meaningful clip outside of the pay-up options in Lamar, Achane, Henry, Waddle, Flowers. Tua doesn't show up in lineups in the multiplier spot, which totally makes sense. He's really expensive and just has minimal rushing upside. And honestly, even if you did play Tua and you see him taking off, you are absolutely clenching your butt cheeks together because you are terrified that he's going to get concussed on the play somehow.
You know, it's amazing to me that these players, all quarterbacks, they would be. My brother-in-law was saying this the other day, and he was so right. They should just go in and take the contact. Most of these guys, right, when they're running, they should take the contact. Because how do they always get hurt? How does almost every quarterback when he's running get hurt? They slide and their head is still up and they get decapitated.
Yep.
Like that's what's happened to Tua every time. You know what I mean? Look at a guy like Josh Allen. Granted, he's much bigger than your average quarterback, but if you went in and took the contact, you're probably going to be much better off than giving yourself up and having a heat-seeking missile hit you at 20 miles per hour. Like it definitely does feel like they're putting themselves in a dangerous position by sliding like that. Mahomes is the only one that's good at it. Like Mahomes can slide almost parallel to the ground. Everyone else is just asking to get killed.
Yeah, and the 201, if I remember correctly, I think almost all of his concussions came from running in the open field. It's hard to remember. There's been so many of them that, who could recall every single one of them? But I definitely remember the really bad one against the Bills. That was one, I think he might have even actually gone head first into a defender
where
and
he started
knocked
seizing
himself out.
The one where he started seizing out like on the field.
Yeah, I think that one I think he dove and his helmet hit into somebody's knee.
That might have been it. Yeah. Ramos fam, welcome to the team, man. Yeah, Paul, you're right. The Cincinnati one was a sack, and he got his head smoked. I remember that one. Smoked. Oof. Yeah, that was tough. Anyway, you got 3 minutes. My lineups are in. Hopefully yours are. If you have any more questions, hit us up. We got a couple minutes. Malcolm, are we going Bateman? I have some Bateman, yeah. I'm not overweight on Bateman, but he's always capable of getting it done. Always. So, yeah, I think Bateman's perfectly fine. You're going to have to pray to the football gods that some of your low-owned punts come through, but there's nothing really to differentiate one of those guys from the other It's essentially, are they on the field or not? Q-Dog, kickers? Yeah, I got plenty of kickers. The only time we'll ever really talk about kickers is if we have a ton of them or none of them. I have a good amount of Ravens defense, good amount of Patterson and Luke, and not a ton of Miami. Last I looked, I have like 7% Miami defense.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I prefer Tyler Luke to Riley Patterson. They're comparably owned. They're within, 5 percentage points of each other. They're within a couple $100s of each other. It's just simply, I expect the Ravens to score more points than the Dolphins tonight.
Yeah, they should, but you never know. Could be a spot where the Dolphins get it to the 30 like 3 different times and can't punch it in. We'll see. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following us over on Tails. For those of you still hanging out, are you on Tails? I hope so. Tails app, Google Play Store, Apple, wherever it is. Download the app, baby. Jump on. And if you guys love it, you already know we're never going to ask you to pay. There's a ton of free picks. Now, you have some great guys that are totally transparent with their results that have premium content as well, which is, I will say, well worth it. But if you're looking for a ton of free bets, ton of free DFS content, I hope, see there, D-Chev, Tails rocks. Thanks, brother. If you guys, during the game, you don't mind doing this for me, right? Pull up your phone, hop onto the Tails app, or hop into the App Store, the Google Play Store, tap that 5-star review, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Take a couple, maybe during a commercial break. You wouldn't believe how far that goes for us. Trying to get Tails up there, higher ranked. And every single one of you that does it, you wouldn't believe how impactful that is. So for those of you that already have, thank you, and appreciate you guys who are going to do it tonight. Again, these commercials suck these days. You're doing something good for the people. And we hope to keep bringing you a lot of great free content over there. And I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah. Once again, just want to remind you guys that today's show, it is sponsored by DraftKings Pick 6. And if you guys are signing up for DraftKings Pick 6 for the first time, new customers, your first $5 in Pick 6 sets, that can get you $50 in bonus picks. If you have a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Just call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus and valid only where Pick 6 operates. See dkng.co/Pick 6 states. This is void in New York and Ontario and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions do apply. One per new DraftKings customer. Your first $5 in Pick 6 sets to receive a max $50 issued as a non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This offer ends on November 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Terms and conditions can be found at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. This is sponsored by DraftKings.